All right, so today we're going to be talking about Chapter 2. First thing mentioned in Chapter 2 is critical technologies. A couple things we're going to be talking about is DNA, rDNA, the MAB tech, PCR, and the bioprocesses. So DNA is the building block of life. They use it in laboratories such as rDNA, which is formed by genetic recombination, and it's done to create the desired genetic combinations to, fix the flaws in DNA. MAB Tech uses that technology to personalize treatments to specific illnesses and to react well with somebody's DNA combination. PCR is the making of specific DNAs in a test tube in order to test and change things out to see if they can create something that would benefit somebody. Bioprocesses is using living cells to obtain desired products. So that'd be like taking a cell and taking the components of the cell and changing them in order to make a new cell that they can use in turn to fight other things off. Like, for example, they experiment with human growth cells to see if they can make it so that it will attack cancer later on. That's one of the ways that they thought they were going to make a cure for cancer. The next step in Chapter 2 was biotech and agriculture. So this specifically lists genetically engineered crops. So you might see a lot of advertisements on radio stations or from like Pioneer Seeds talking about their new variety of crops that promise more bushels to the acre or more weed. They're less receptive to weeds and things like that. The next thing is transgenic animals or plants. That's basically just creating new varieties. For example, like we have the miniature dachshund. They bred two different dogs together to get a miniaturized version of the original breed. Or like a Labrador retriever, they bred a Labrador and a golden retriever together to get the Labrador retriever. And they also do this in plants to create, like, they do it in apples, tomatoes, all kinds of grains, just to create new types that work better in different environments. So the concerns with genetically modified foods is another thing that's listed under biotech and agriculture. The main concerns is that there's a theory among people that GMOs lead to cancer in people because of the toxins and the unwanted byproducts they create. Online, you cannot find anything backed by research, but anything genetically altered with chemicals or anything like that cannot be good for you. So my stance on that is kind of neutral. So next we move on to industrial uses for biotechnology. The main one is waste management. They introduce different bacteria into waste in order to help it decompose faster. Another interesting thing mentioned within the chapter is biomining, which is basically using chemicals that are attracted to iron oxide stuff, and it eats away at everything other than the desired material, which is pretty interesting. The next thing is biotech for health. So HGP, genetic testing, human gene therapy, and xenotransplantation. So genetic testing just tests your genes for hereditary diseases such as like Parkinson's. Some cancers are hereditary. Some of those things you can pick up by testing your genes, and by doing that, you can help prepare yourself or mitigate those symptoms later on. Human gene therapy. This is kind of in medical gray area and ethical gray area, because a lot of people think that playing with your genes and changing your genetic makeup is actually playing God, which I would probably have to agree. And then the next one, for sure, xenotransplantation. There's actually, and I did my discussion board over this, there's been 2 people die from having pig heart transplants. The first guy died from contracting a virus from the pig heart and then going into organ failure. The next guy rejected the heart and died 6 weeks after the procedure. So it's one of those things where it's hard to get a heart on if you're waiting on a transplant list, and it would be convenient to use an animal heart, but like, where is the line? Like, is the animal killed for the use of its organs, or is it already dead? So that I do not know. The next one is probably the most unethical, we'll say unethical thing yet. Cloning of animals. So there are some medical uses for this. A lot of times they'll use the clone animal to replace parts in the original animal to see like if it's viable, and that honestly to me is terrible because the clone is still a living being. Stem cell research, that one is used. I know there's some stem cell research on how that can help cure cancer, help mitigate cancer, help with the recovery for cancer, help with chemo recovery. That I don't think I know enough about it to form an opinion on it. And then at the end of the chapter, they ask, is it ethical? If you're looking at it from a religious standpoint, no. If you're looking at it from a societal standpoint, maybe. But it's in a gray area there. So to me, it's not. But another thing we have to think about is like overpopulation on the world. If everybody gets cured of every illness, then what are we going to do with the earth? If everybody keeps multiplying, there'll be more disease, and eventually it's just going to consume, we're going to consume ourselves. Now, whether that ends up affecting you or me in a bad way, just is kind of the way of life. But that's just kind of my take on it. And overall, chapter 2 and the videos had some very interesting things to talk about. Again, it's another very touchy subject right now, but it was very interesting. So thank you.